When you die, where does all your money go? Well, welcome to the show. Call it a podcast. I like to call it a quasi-interview. I've been surrounded by some incredible people in my career that are experts in their field. Not really good, but experts in their field. And fortunately for me, they've all become friends. And I'm really excited to introduce you to someone today that's very close to me. She shows a passion that I do as well about what she does for a living, and family and friends and everything in between. So let me tell you a quick story. I'm so happy today. I've got one of my dear friends, Ariana Burris, is here with me today. Ariana's she's an exceptional mother and wife, because that's more important than what she does for a living, as she knows. But she's an incredibly talented, successful attorney who represents clients in the estate world, probate world. I've worked with her personally, and so I'm excited to dive in today. So Ariana, thanks for taking the hot seat with me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. What did your husband say when you told him you were coming? Like, did he say, oh, don't forget to brush your hair, don't eat an onion bagel with seeds in your mouth? Like, what did he?
I think he was just really excited. I don't think either of us have ever been invited on a podcast / conversation. So He's excited.
Well, I try and tell people, like, when I wanted to start this, of course, my wife rolled her eyes a couple of times and said, oh my gosh, you're just finding an excuse to talk more. But what she's really found out is I'm only meeting with my friends, with people who I know. And so really long story short, I've spoken in front of hundreds of people before, and I've never been a card script, write down what I want to talk about. I've officiated 5 weddings. And so the moral of that story is, what I found so easy about this is when you're talking to your friends, it doesn't really matter, what you talk about. Yeah. And I didn't want to be scripted, and so I send you those few questions. For me, it's just been so easy because it's more about just having people that I'm friends with sit down. So I'm glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Your expertise in the estate world, probate world, is passionate to me because I'm engaged with my clients all the time. And one of the things I've loved about being able to send my clients to you has been just kind of your human approach to it, right? Because
I try.
No, you do. And just to affirm you do it well.
Yeah.
Here's the hardest question I'm going to ask you today about work. And we've talked about it briefly. Mm-hmm. What is the problem with people being stupid? And I use that term carefully because when smart people have information and they don't execute, I think they're being stupid. Mm-hmm. So I know that's an insensitive word sometimes. No. How is it that Prince dies without a living trust, or Aretha Franklin, or the firefighter with a wife and 2 kids and a house and a rental property, and him and his wife sadly leave Earth? What is it that's stopping people from doing it?
I think it's fear. I think people don't necessarily want to acknowledge or talk about their death.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it will happen to everybody.
It's inevitable.
Yeah. And, some cases are more, like you mentioned, Prince and Aretha Franklin, those big celebrities who pass away with nothing. That really is shocking to me.
Yeah. Because they have business managers.
They have business managers. I mean, they have every professional you can think of who's on their team. And I guess they miss their estate planning attorney. But it's really just, kind of getting caught up in life, not necessarily thinking about what comes later. Yeah. And, a lot of it is fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we, I have maybe a different approach to my clients than you do.
Yeah.
A couple of reasons. I'm older, so I'm allowed to be more cynical and direct. And I will speak to people about their lack of a living trust or life insurance. Mm-hmm. And I can appreciate why you may not be able to be as direct and derogatory as I may be on that. How do we get them, besides people just saying, oh, you got to talk to my friend Ariana Burris at Burris Law. She's really good. How do we get more people to recognize, here's what probate looks like.
Yep.
Here's what it looks like if you pass away and you have a child and neither of you likes the in-laws. Is there a way to create more messaging around it, I hate to say it, to put fear into people? Or is that a hard kind of approach?
I mean, I think it really depends on the person, but a lot of times what works for me in getting through to people on that level is to run the numbers for them. Here's what a probate would cost.
Yeah.
Here's the time that it would take.
Yeah.
And just kind of what their family will go through, because they may not care what happens to them.
Right.
But they certainly will care about what their children might go through in dealing with their estate. And I have plenty of horror stories to tell people.
I could imagine. and there's always a little bit of confusion around probate.
Right.
So one more thing on that, then we'll talk some fun stuff. But so probate basically kind of puts everything on hold. And so I guess what I want to try and clarify that I didn't understand this about probate. So mom passes away, there's a daughter and a son, and it's in probate. During the time of probate, still got to pay property taxes.
Yep.
Still got to pay homeowners insurance.
Correct.
What about the mortgage?
Yes.
Still got to pay it.
Absolutely.
And what happens, like, I got to imagine a lot of times the people inheriting the property, the beneficiaries, they may not have the resources for that.
Right.
So then what happens?
Well, in some of those cases, we get in touch with the lender and explain the situation. And basically, we have to swear to them we're planning to sell the property. You will get, paid. Oftentimes, they'll file a creditor's claim. They can't necessarily go into foreclosure because the property is tied up in the probate proceeding.
Okay, so is that sorry to interrupt, I do that a lot.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a protection layer in that sense where if it's in probate, they can file the creditor's lien you talked about?
Yeah, creditor's claim.
But they can't foreclose on it.
They can certainly try. I think there probably could be extenuating circumstances where they would go to that level, but that would happen if there's no communication with the lender.
Okay, got it.
So communication is
just like
key.
anything.
It's a practical approach to it.
Yeah, if you're talking and explaining, and hey, it's in probate, we have 19 months left, and here's the appraisal, and
exactly,
they're a little
here's
more
the timeline. Yeah,
amenable to that.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, what happens to the kids? I'll say the beneficiaries in that case, because I think I had a client recently, and I think one of the things, here's what people forget.
Yeah.
When you're in probate, you can't sell the house, correct?
You can sell it. You can put it up on the market after the probate's up and running.
Right.
After if there is a will, after someone's been, officially recognized as the executor.
Yeah.
Or if there is no will, as the administrator.
Okay.
And they've been issued it's called the letters of administration, and all that has come out. That enables them to sign a listing agreement.
Okay.
And you can sell a property.
Can you close escrow?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can close if you're in probate, but you've got to at least kind of take some of those other steps.
Oh, for sure.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it. So during that time, let me give you a hypothetical.
Okay.
Daughter and son inherit a property. The lien holder's fine, waiting for probate. They don't have one penny to renew the homeowner's insurance. I don't want to say who cares about property taxes. It just becomes a lien, ultimately payable.
Right.
But what happens if they literally don't have any money? Like, for instance, I know they can go get a private money loan for some of those things. Is that really the only way to solve for that? So that in the event the home insurance stays there, right? Just in case of fire or flood or something?
With homeowners insurance, sometimes, we will advance the cost of that just to cover it for the client so they don't have a bigger problem. And then that just becomes another one of our expenses.
Sure. When probate gets settled or whatever that looks like.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's, honestly, we've never run into that situation because we've always been able to work with the insurer, figure it out with the beneficiaries. And then sometimes they do pursue, like inheritance funding, basically.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge disconnect because people don't even realize like what can take place.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about that word stupid is because, a living trust is, I don't know, call it $3,000 to $7,000, whatever the number is, right? Higher net worth, higher money. But it's crazy to me that we'll watch people spend money on, we could all joke about Starbucks and Range Rovers and all that stuff. I mean, Ariana, I can't tell you, I look at, 30 financials a month for mortgage clients. Like, it astonishes me what they'll spend on a car payment, but they don't have the living trust, which brings me back to, is it, I don't want to talk about the hard stuff. I don't know who I want to assign to do it. So they just get in fear, and then it just becomes, I'm just not going to deal with it right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's really easy to get pushed down to the very bottom of your to-do list every single year.
Yeah.
So I do see a lot of people at the very end of the year because they're like, I got to check it off my list.
Yeah.
Or at the beginning of the year, it's my New Year's resolution to do my estate planning.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll see that. And a lot of people honestly get motivated to do it because they've just gone through something with a probate in their family, or or they've seen a trust administration go smoothly, and they're like, okay, I got to do this. This has been a wake up call.
Yeah,
a lot of folks like that.
And I think a lot of people, like for instance, I'm fortunate fraternity brother of mine, helped me get a living trust 20 years ago.
Yeah.
My next door neighbor and one of my best friends, he handles everything in the event my wife and I pass. But it's interesting when I hear you talk more about it, and our mutual friend, Matt Stein.
Yeah.
It's interesting to talk about the importance of trust administration.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people think, like I'm going to be the administrator on 2 living trusts in the event of 2 of my friends' passings.
Right.
And as I start to learn more from you, I'm like, oh shit, like I'm not qualified to do that. No, I mean it.
You'll be taking on a part-time job.
It's like a full-time job.
It could be,
depending on the intricacies of it.
Yeah.
And so that's a big part that I think sometimes maybe people don't realize, where they're just like, well, I'm going to have my daughter do it. I'm going to have someone do it. And I think people don't realize, like, it's a really big deal. First of all, it's a lot of responsibility, right?
Yes.
And number 2, there's a lot of liability involved.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, there can be, yeah.
And so do you like taking on the trust administration, call it post-death? Do you find your clients, when you're doing the planning on just setting up the living trust, is that kind of identified in there of, hey, who do you want to handle it? Brother, sister, sibling, dog. We also do that, right?
Yes.
Do they kind of identify that when you're establishing kind of the first round of the living trust?
Oh, yeah. One of the pillars of a trust is who's the successor trustee.
Yeah.
We can't create a trust without that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you hear all these fancy words like fiduciaries and things like that. I know Farmers and Merchants Bank does that, because my next door neighbor, an elderly gentleman, just lost his wife recently.
Okay.
No living trust, no will, by the way.
Oh, that's right.
80 years old. So I know Farmers and Merchants kind of does some stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love banks. We all need them.
Yeah.
But I find a personal approach to something so intimate and personal. Not that the Farmers and Merchants or the fiduciaries can't do it.
Yeah.
But doesn't it seem logical? I know you're not going to try and promote yourself. Doesn't it seem logical that you sit down with someone for 3 hours, you take 30 days, you make 97 revisions, you write a big check?
Yeah.
Does it seem logical that the person that helped you establish, if you trusted them to do that, could probably be the right administrator for that? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, as the drafter of an estate plan, I can't serve as the successor trustee. It would be a huge conflict.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I work with people during their estate planning to figure out, okay, do you really think your 5 children are all going to get along perfectly to do this together?
Never.
That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of professional fiduciaries who are individuals who act as professional.
Totally neutral third parties.
Yeah, just neutral third party. That's what I have in my personal estate plan.
Okay.
Especially when we have all minor children, our parents are older. You don't necessarily want to ask a friend, or you don't have anyone you feel like you want to put in that role. It can be a really great choice.
Yeah. As you know, I always change my mind. I'm going to talk about one more thing,
Okay.
and then we're going to talk about some personal stuff.
Okay.
One of the biggest mistakes I see people make, and I'll let you really kind of affirm this, or say no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I do a lot of business for a fiduciary who sends me clients, and estate litigators where the siblings hate each other.
Yes.
And it's always so sad to hear that they didn't hate each other. I appreciate why some people, I'm going to kind of generalize and say a husband and wife or a family, and they pass away. It's so probably easy to say, oh, my oldest son or my daughter, whichever. I don't think people realize the amount of stress and pressure they put on that sibling and the dynamic that creates.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I know you can't tell someone what to do. Yeah. Do you share that with them if they're saying, oh, I want my daughter to do it or something like that?
Yes. I ask questions about that individual. What do they do for a living? Do they have a basic level of financial competency?
Yeah.
I've had to hold people's hands through how to write a check, what to say at the bank, really basic stuff. So you want someone who has common sense and who can make a phone call or write an email. Ask for help can be a big one. And I ask a lot about the family dynamics. How do they get along? Is this one sibling telling everybody else what's going to happen going to go over well or not so much? Because if there's any dynamic that's tough now, it's only going to get worse when we're talking about money.
Especially when you're talking about money.
Doesn't have to be a lot of money either. They'll really work it out in that venue.
It's great. I'm the youngest of 4.
Yeah.
I love my brothers and my sister. We really like each other, and sometimes we don't.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't have that problem because literally my mom and dad separately passed away with literally nothing.
Yeah.
The argument wasn't who's getting money. The argument was who's paying for it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
My father-in-law, as you know, recently passed away a couple years ago. My wife was an only child. Really, really simple.
Yes.
When my wife and I were updating our trust, which we're probably not as good at every 5 or 7 years, maybe. I think it'd been like 9. But we had talked about, my kids are 25, 30, 35. We had talked about one of them being the settlor trustee.
Yeah.
And through those conversations, one of my other kids would not care. Whatever the document said, the document said. One of my other kids might care. And so it was really my wife, candidly, who said, I just don't want to put them in that spot.
Yeah.
Because even though they like each other, I just don't want to do it. And so we hear these stories, you more than me.
Yeah.
Or I just closed a loan for a gal, her and her brother. It got so bad with him. And in the end, she's was in tears. Not that she had lost her dad. She'd lost her best friend.
Yeah.
And they literally, the document was really clear. Split the baby down the middle. It's a 50-50. And there were some questions about, she paid some electric bills and some gas bills. And in the end, she finally said, listen, I love you. I don't care.
Yeah.
They are not talking anymore. And it wasn't even a large sum of money. And in the end, she's like, listen, I love you. And her brother hasn't talked to her in almost a year.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of money, but it wasn't a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so I almost want to do a separate video on people and say, listen, don't be stupid.
Yeah.
If you're going to set up a living trust, try not to pick one of your kids just because that's hard.
If you can avoid it, yeah.
Especially, and then we'll talk about health directives in a minute.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some personal stuff.
Okay.
You love skiing.
Yes.
Your daughter loves skiing.
She's great.
And your age group, much younger than mine, is typically more snowboarding.
It can be, yeah.
But you and your husband prefer the skis.
We call my husband a recovering snowboarder. He was a snowboarder for decades, and then he switched to skiing recently.
And is that because you skied and your
daughter
skis?
I think that was a lot of it, and we love Deer Valley, and you can't snowboard there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's a ski-only resort.
Ski-only, okay.
So he kind of had to make the switch, but...
Is that kind of like an old person resort where they don't allow snowboards or jumps or anything?
It's a fancy resort.
Okay, got it.
Or they think that is. But yeah, he says it's because it's easier on the body, but I don't know. You'd have to ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you from someone who has only skied. I tried snowboarding twice. It just wasn't my deal.
Yeah.
I've got some body parts that are not great. We when our kids were younger, we went to Mammoth all the time. We went not all the time. We went a couple times a year. They were in sports, so it was always hard to find that balance. And the very last time we went to Mammoth, we had my youngest son and his friend, and we send them off, go have fun, meet us for lunch to make sure you're alive, and then we'll see you again.
Yeah.
And so Chris and I, we get on the slope, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
We get up and do a run. We come back. She's like, my knee hurts. Let's have a Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
So we go into the lodge. We have Bloody Mary. My son comes down to meet us later.
Yeah.
May have had a couple Bloody Marys. And after my son leaves for lunch, she looks over to me and says, I don't think I ever need to ski again.
Wow.
And that was it. That was the last time we ever skied, because you're younger. As you get a little bit older, your body parts when it comes to skiing. And I've got a friend who's, I think my friend Eric is 68 now. He still skis like I get it. But my body doesn't do well with skiing. And I was so grateful, because if my wife wanted to keep going skiing, I would go.
You would keep doing it.
I'd have to have more Bloody Marys. But I wasn't enjoying it anymore just because of some old surgeries and stuff. But I do see more people skiing into their later years than snowboarding for obvious reasons.
Yes. Yeah. You don't see a ton of older snowboarders out there.
You don't.
Yeah.
And when you were younger, did you go skiing with your family?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So it's been in your blood.
Yeah. I've snowboarded once, but I prefer skiing.
And that's your happy place.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You, definitely. Your husband, your daughter.
Yeah. The cold, the snow.
You love it.
I love it.
And I don't know about you, my wife used to think I was super crabby because she'd be like, well, who do you want to go? And I'm like, the kids.
Right.
She's like, well, do you want our friends? I'm like, no. She's like, you don't like anybody. I'm like, no, I do.
Yeah.
But when I would get my kids in a small, tiny, crappy cabin in Mammoth for 4 days, because only money we had was for the lift tickets, right? So it was so expensive. I know it sounds so corny. It's probably like a book.
Yeah.
The fire, the hot chocolate, the movies.
Love that.
Your phones don't typically work too good. And there was something. I think there's something about the kids in the snow too, where I feel like they just kind of let everything go.
Yeah, totally.
And then being on the slopes with them. And
it's so fun. Yeah, I'm not much for, I mean, I'll go skiing with anybody, but if we're doing like a family trip, there's a very short list of folks that are invited to come. Yeah.
Well, plus, you're busy.
Yeah.
You're trying to be a great mom, trying to be a great wife.
Yeah.
And we all know how hard it is to kind of find balance.
Yes.
And my wife and I found balance we went away all the time. We didn't do like 2-week trips.
Yeah.
We would find as many weekends as we could.
Yeah.
Because to have your kids isolated for 48 hours, especially when they're teenagers, when they're like, I don't want to hang out with you. I'm like, you're coming. Like, you don't have to talk to me, but you're coming. And then they talk to you and everything works out fine.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about sports.
Okay.
So you don't really have a favorite sports team.
I don't.
But you love live sports.
I love sports. I played sports all through high school and college.
What'd you play in high school?
Primarily volleyball.
Okay.
Was my sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I absolutely love going to like NFL games, NBA games, hockey games, you name it, I'll be there.
But no desire to root for a specific team?
Not really. I mean, I kind of got caught up in the Dodger mania that everyone was feeling last year.
Why not? I mean, it's...
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have an allegiance. So yeah, I'm a free agent.
Are you? I love that. Born and raised here?
No, I was born in Utah.
Okay, got it.
Actually, yeah.
And is that where the skiing started?
Well, we moved from there when I was 2 because my mom told my dad I can't live another day in the snow. Yeah. And so we moved to Orange County.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in Nellie Gale.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And where'd you do your undergrad at?
At Brigham Young.
Okay.
In Utah.
And then where'd you go to law school?
At Chapman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you want to come back out here after BYU? Like, did you want to kind of come back to California? Or was it like, I just want to go to Chapman?
I wanted to get farther away from my life in Utah. Okay. So I came out here. I didn't really have a specific plan as far as Chapman. Yeah. Honestly, they gave me the best scholarship. Okay. And so I picked them.
There you go, right?
And it was a fateful choice because I've been here ever since.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then as long as I'll tell you one of the best things I love about these.
Okay.
I just had a mutual friend of ours on, Julie Leffler, last month. We had a great time.
Yeah.
And even though we know each other from our networking group and we've done some social things together, you've helped some clients. So thank you for that. It's really cool for me because, listen, you're busy. Yeah. You got a daughter. I got a granddaughter. I got a wife. You and I don't get to just have lunch once a week.
Right.
I love learning something about my friends because this is the only setting we're ever going to do it, right? If you and I try to say, let's have coffee, we'd be like, here on whatever today is, May 8th or 9th, we'd be like, I'm free in August.
Right.
But for this, it's really cool to learn something more. So let's just stay on that topic for a second. Okay. So where'd you meet your husband?
At Chapman in law school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Same year? Were you guys same time?
He was a year ahead of me.
Okay.
Yeah, we were on the same mock trial team.
And is that when the sparks started flying?
Probably. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Did you like him first, or did he like you first?
Man. I mean, he will say something different probably,
what would he
but
say?
He liked me first, for sure.
Would he say you liked him first?
Probably.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I have the same marriage dynamic.
Yeah.
Like, my wife and I will have different arguments. It should be like, no way, here's exactly how it went down. And I'm like, I don't remember it like that.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so you guys still have that fun argument being married all these years 100%. About who liked who first.
Yeah.
And who normally wins? You probably.
Of course, yeah.
Well, I don't subscribe to the. I subscribe to the happy wife, happy life thing in a little bit of a different spin.
Okay.
I do think almost one of the common themes in almost every, I'm going to say, healthy marriage I've seen. They're all have their challenges, right?
Yes.
But in almost every healthy marriage I've seen, there's been a common theme where strong men really want to support strong women.
Yeah.
And we can have the fun conversations about who liked who first and stuff like that. But I'm sure I've seen you with your husband before. Like, it's wonderful to watch a husband and wife connect in a way where both can be strong.
Yeah.
But I think most men who really do want to have a healthy marriage and who adore our wives, we want our wives to think, no, I mean it, whatever they want to think, because I don't really care about most things. There's some things my wife cares about.
Yeah.
If I'm going to lose an argument to my wife about who liked who first, like, I'm winning.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah,
like
of course.
It means absolutely nothing.
For sure.
And what area of law does your husband practice?
He does real estate and business litigation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Has he always been in that side of it? Have you always been in the trust probate side of it?
No, for both of us. He started out, he graduated in 2008 and I was in 2009. So right into the kind of heat of the economic crisis.
Yeah.
So we just kind of did what we could,
Both go to big firms or whatever.
So I worked for a sole practitioner who did criminal defense.
Okay.
Which was quite an experience for about a year. And then I left that behind and never ever wanted to do it again.
Did you hate that, Ariana?
I mean, I didn't hate it, but it was a very challenging specialty that he had.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But it was a good experience.
Yeah.
And he started off doing bankruptcy at his own bankruptcy firm with a friend of ours.
Okay.
And then they closed up that shop a little bit after the crisis was over. And then he went to a medium-sized firm. I went to a big national firm, traveled all the time. It was super fun. I was doing Social Security.
Didn't have your daughter yet?
No, this was pre-kiddo.
Yeah.
And then in 2015, we started our firm at our kitchen table.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Now, are you working like hand in hand every day together, or is it kind of like he's got his craft, I've got my craft, we have to look at the QuickBooks report once a month?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, I was still working at my big firm for about another year and a half.
After you started it?
After we started so I was doing two things.
Okay.
And then he had left his firm and brought some clients with him.
To
so he was solely doing
launch
that.
And get it started. Yeah.
And then we had our daughter, and then I left my firm, and it was operating without a net for real.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Good for you.
Yeah.
As you know, I own a couple businesses, and I've got kids, so we have that in common.
Right.
Were you more scared to have a kid or more scared to launch your own firm?
Have a kid, 100%.
Okay. So now you look back on
it.
I always say this to people because I'm full of unsolicited opinions. I just like to tell everyone.
Yeah, tell me.
It's crazy, right? When you have a kid, all these fears and worries, and then you start to realize, okay, I made 6 mistakes, but I'm doing most of it right, but I'm going to make some mistakes along the way. My kids are all grown now. When I look back at some of the seasons when I thought how hard they were, like I look back now, I'm like, God, it wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it goes so fast.
Oh, yes.
Which is
so fast.
The craziest part.
Yeah. It feels like yesterday she was born.
And wait, she's 8?
She would want you to know she's 8.5.
She's okay.
She would want you to be clear on that.
Okay. Whose personality does she take more of?
Oh,
or is it a good DNA blend?
It's a good blend. She's very silly. My husband is very silly.
Okay.
And then she has a very kind of, my personality is very in order, and we're gonna check things off our list. She's very much that too.
Okay.
But she's a delight.
Oh my gosh. And it is interesting how like we find the characteristics of our kids somewhere within us.
Yeah.
And then we try and figure out, well, what's the neighborhood kid going to bring to the picture to also, kind of impact us. I remember when my 3 kids, one's my daughter.
Yeah.
When my daughter was a teenager, she was a teenager.
Yeah.
And my wife, wicked smart, very strong-willed, a little bit rhetorical. I'm a little bit hot. And if Chris were here right now, I'd say it. She'd be nodding her head. I remember and my daughter was just a teenager, and they had their battles, and now they're the best of friends, which I love.
Awesome.
But something that happened that was really funny was there was a time when Amanda was really being a little bit disrespectful, and she said some things to my wife, and she stormed out. And my wife probably didn't handle it the way she should have either, which she took accountability for. But here's the best part. We're back in the master bedroom. I never took sides. We'd close doors, and my wife would be like, I can't believe that she did, and she rattled off like 4 things, and I never wanted to laugh, and I'm cracking up in my room, which I irritated my wife even more. And you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
I'm like, babe, that is you in the body of a 13-year-old. You're frustrated that she's strong. You're frustrated that she's rhetorical. You're frustrated that she's defending her position. I go, babe, that is you, that's right? You, yeah. And she didn't know what to say other than, well, she's the child and I'm the adult, right? Because you could just tell. They became literally the same person other than, difference in years.
Yeah.
And now my daughter's 30 and the similarities are uncanny.
Oh, so cool.
And so I love hearing people say, well, my daughter's got a little bit of my disposition, a little bit of my husband, which is probably a good balance, right? She kind of stays in this place with you, a little bit your personality. Mm-hmm. Your husband keeps it a little bit lighter with some comedy or something like that. That's a perfect blend.
She's great.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
My granddaughter's 8.
Oh, is she?
She is.
Oh.
And I'll tell you, probably like what you're thinking, like 8 going on 12.
Oh,
and I used to say that so loosely. Mm-hmm. I'm way different than my kids. Like I'm watching my granddaughter at 8 and the words she says and the things that she says and some of the responses she'll give us. I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, no kidding.
I candidly, if I'm being transparent with you, my wife and I say all the time, I'm so glad I'm not raising kids today.
I have heard many people say that.
Some of the older people like us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a different time. And not to be that guy of, back in the day. Oh, it totally is. But you're battling so many more things.
There was no social media when I was in school. There was none. I had a brick as a cell phone, and it could only make calls. It's like, and she's got a computer, and I mean, she doesn't have a phone. She's asked for one, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, you're seeing some of her friends probably have phones.
There's one girl in second grade who has a phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we will not be getting her a phone anytime soon.
Well, I think the hard part about that, and then we're going to get back to work in just a second.
That's fine.
I think the hard part about that is if I had an 8-year-old, I have an 8-year-old granddaughter.
Right.
She sleeps over twice a week. I took her to school today.
So cool.
We live right on the corner from her. We see her all the time. I'd be concerned if I had an 8-year-old who was going to play with an 8-year-old who had a phone.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Not to presume that 8-year-olds, they're 8. First of all, they're 8.
Yeah.
I can buy for a minute I want them to be able to get a hold of me.
Right. Get a flip phone.
Get a flip phone. Right?
Yes.
Get a flip phone. My youngest son, a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. Hard gun carrying, Republican, conservative, like very strong. He's got conspiracy theories all over the place. And he's one of the few 25-year-olds doesn't love social media and doesn't love all the stuff that comes with the phone. Yeah. He's like, Dad, I'm getting a flip phone. I'm like, what about work? He's like, I'll have a computer with me.
Yeah.
He says, he goes, Dad, they can't track you on the flip phone.
I mean, yeah.
But they do have the phones where you push the button, it calls grandma, or push the button.
Yeah,
right?
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I just don't want to hand a computer to a child and say, good luck.
Yeah. Have you and your husband had the talk yet about when you think that's going to happen?
Probably when she is with her friends without us.
Sure.
I think like out and about.
Yeah.
I want her to be able to get in touch with us and get in touch with her. Yeah. But other than that,
yeah,
I'm fine not having a phone.
We have some dear friends that live in Texas, and they've got 3 kids. And Texas has great public schools. The private schools there are not as expensive as what we have here in California. But these 3 kids go to a private school where you do not get to have a phone at school until you're a senior in high school, unless you're a junior and you leave campus for work or something along those lines. And there was a recent study done by, I think it was in Minnesota.
Okay.
They did a 1-semester study at elementary and middle school. They got some funding to do it, or there was no phones. And every category that was bad with phones improved, and every category that was good got better.
Yeah.
The teachers felt like they gained almost 1 hour a day.
Oh, wow.
In the classroom.
That's huge.
Truancy was down. Yep. Detentions were down. I know that all sounds kind of not to go off on a tangent about cell phones in 2025, but that's a tough one.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah. Let's go back to work for a couple minutes.
Okay.
In your world, you do so much, right? There's the planning phase of just helping people prepare for the inevitable. There's the reactionary phase of, let's see what we can do, right? And then there's kind of let's talk about the administration phase that you were talking about.
Sure.
Is there an area you like best? Are they all kind of equally weighted to where the importance level is the same, but the timing's different? Like, do you have one that you just love more than the other, or is the probate and just the planning part of it all equally passionate?
I mean, I think my practice is pretty evenly divided between estate planning, trust administration, probate, and also conservatorships and probate guardianships. And then I do business planning and maintenance as well.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily have a favorite. I love estate planning because it's so proactive. It's so rare you get to visit a lawyer and not have a problem.
Yeah, right.
So that's amazing.
Like, hey, I want to be here today.
No one's like yelling at each other or mad at me. So it's fun. That's a nice sweet spot for someone to be in as an attorney. I love trust administration and probate. They're both like unraveling a puzzle. How are we going to figure this out? What's going on?
Okay.
They all can present their own unique issues. We've had immigration issues and criminal issues and bankruptcy issues, and I mean, you name it, it's come up. In those worlds.
I bet.
And then conservatorships and that realm is a totally different animal.
That's a hard one, isn't it?
It's a hard one, yeah.
Emotional.
Very emotional. And, there can be, right now we have conservatorships going for, very elderly folks, which is what the conservatorship system is designed for.
Right, to protect them.
And then also much younger people who have an impairment that prevents them from functioning as an adult and they need support.
So what happens, I'll give you a hypothetical. Mom and dad pass away.
Yeah.
They have maybe a special needs child, underage or even adult age, right? Someone's got to, whatever wishes they've put in writing, someone's got to be able to make sure that child is cared for and all that. Is that kind of the conservatorship?
So that is describing potentially a conservatorship, but for sure special needs trust administration.
Yeah.
Folks who have a special needs trust as a beneficiary can be under conservatorship, and it's quite common for both to exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be that way.
Okay. What's the benefit of it?
Of a special needs trust?
Yeah.
Well, if someone is on needs or income-based benefits like supplemental security income through Social Security, Medi-Cal, anything where handing them a check is going to disrupt their eligibility for the benefit, then we keep it inside of a special needs or supplemental needs trust.
Okay.
So it's a type of irrevocable trust that they'll never have direct custody or control over the asset.
Got it.
But there's a trustee there managing it for them.
And they're going to follow whatever mom and dad, again, hypothetically, mom and dad's wishes.
Yep.
Because that person's probably not really going to have the ability to ascertain the right decision of
very often, very often. And so they, the trustee is with them for the long haul. They can purchase property, buy and sell, send them on vacations, do whatever it is they need to do to live a quality of life, but also pay for things like, medical expenses, anything that they need.
Okay, here's my biggest fear on that, just because I have fears of the unknown.
Yeah.
You set that up, and hopefully an audience member can gain some value from that. I always say the 4.2 listeners. What happens if that attorney passes away?
The attorney who set it up passes away?
No. So you've got the special needs trust. Someone's administering it.
Yeah, so it's a trustee.
Yeah. Let's say that trustee's an attorney.
Yeah.
And they pass away. Or let's say the trustee is me and I pass away.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's a provision in there.
Yeah.
What if there's not?
So if there's not a backup named and there's no mechanism in the trust for anyone to appoint or elect someone, then you have to seek the instruction of the probate court.
So probate court then is going to come in. However, they're going to, whether it's identify or confirm or something.
Yep.
And that's got to be a little bit faster probate court hearing than a standard probate.
The probate court is just the destination for all these things, trust issues, conservatorship issues, obviously probate issues. But they will issue an order appointing a new trustee for that. And then it's not as if that trustee's under court supervision. They just have been nominated by the court.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's always the fear of what if I choose someone and they're gone or something like that. But knowing that there's mechanisms in place. As I kind of wrap this up, if there was one myth that you want to dispel, so I'll talk slowly to give you time to process it.
Sure,
What's one of the biggest myths about estate planning or probate that you can dispel that one person who might be watching or listening saying, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I could have done X all along or something like what's something really impactful that most people think is true and it's just not?
Yeah. One that comes up a lot in estate planning, just proactive, is, first that I'm not the actual angel of death. I'm talking to me will not, bring it on.
Yeah.
So that's
people think
something.
karma's going to.
Yeah. So we're not going to force it to arise.
Right.
But, I think a lot of it is not understanding what a trust can and can't do. So a trust isn't a liability protection vehicle. That really doesn't exist anymore in California in the way that we commonly use them.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest one is just kind of not remembering to maintain your assets. And a lot of that could be that, your attorney's not checking in with you. I check in with my clients every 3 years if I haven't heard from them, honestly. But I had a client just yesterday email me and said, I bought a new house. And I was like, amazing. So I'd run title, purchased in her name.
Right.
I created a trust, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I wrote her and I said, we got to transfer it into the trust.
Right.
And she was like, well, why? What's the benefit? And I was like, you weren't listening to me. So
and it's like, you already paid me money.
Now we got to do it again.
Yeah.
So I think just, kind of heeding advice, asking questions.
Sure.
But just, I think of trust as buckets. And that's what I encourage my clients to think of them as. We can put stuff in the bucket. We can take them out. but you can always operate with the bucket as long as you live.
I love that because I think it lines right up. I hate to say it. It lines right up with your retirement account. It lines right up with your college fund. It lines right up with your savings account.
Yep.
Like I try and encourage everyone to know, like, you got to talk to your source once a year. Fortunately, I do a little bit more than that because I'm a little more anal about it. But to me, I'm floored that someone would maybe come to you and pay you to draw up this beautiful document, that big red leather-bound book with that stamp or whatever it looks like, and then not come to you or remember to come to you, or at least do check-ins on their own, because I'd imagine you're reaching out and they haven't talked to you in 3 years.
Some people, absolutely.
And a couple things have changed and you're like,
oh yeah, I've had multiple children or, lots of changes. And so we try to capture as much of that as we can.
The proactive word, I think, doesn't just apply, would you agree, to the setting up the trust,
right?
But managing it, maintaining
100%.
it, making sure any life changes get implemented or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I always learn something more. I think I'm one of the few people that know a little bit about living trust, not like what you do. I always say, I slept at a Holiday Inn last night. So you've seen that commercial. But just sharing a couple extra things that I think people just don't even realize, and because they're afraid to call or make an appointment or have a consultation, I'm hoping that this message might get to them. I want you to look in that camera, and I want anyone who has questions about reviewing their existing trust, why they may or may not need a new one, or anything that we've talked about. Look in that camera, tell people how they can get a hold of you so they can reach out directly to you.
Yeah, so a really easy way to do it is contact us on our website. It's burris-law.net, and that's B as in boy, URRIS. And our phone number, if you want to give us a call, 714-941-8122.
Yeah. You can tell Ariana and I are friends. Probably more impactfully, she's an absolute expert. She's not just like, there's nothing wrong with LegalZoom, but she's not just giving you boilerplate stuff. Like, what she's talking about is, I need to talk to you. I need to get to know you. I need to talk to your kids. I need to find out what you want. I think that's one of the reasons why you're so successful, is because I use this term carefully, like, you give a shit at a different level. and I think that's impactful. And I think it shows with what you do. So thanks for coming on today. I learned more. So thank you for that. Yeah. And I hope our now hopefully 6.1 listeners will take advantage of it and reach out to you. So thanks for coming on, Ariana. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.